Hey everybody, welcome back to the Vintage Baseball Corner. I'm Chris, and today, on the heels of my last video where I discussed the time that I spent with Willie Mays at Rickwood Field, the ballpark where he played as a teenager before signing with the major leagues and the Giants. If you haven't seen that video, I definitely would encourage you to do so. Get some good background and history on Rickwood Field, a little bit on Willie Mays himself, and then also, detail some of the conversations that we had that day. It was a really special time, and I would encourage you to go back and check that out. I'll make sure that I put a link below in the notes and the description for you. But what we're going to do today is we're going to look at some of my Willie Mays cards from my collection. Not going to blow you away with any PSA 9s and 10s, and they're just a nice mid-grade collection, and but I'm going to share with you those cards and even talk a little bit about maybe some cards that got away, cards that I had that, for whatever reason you sold, you gave away, you traded, whatever, over the years that you kind of wish you had back. I think we all have those stories, those cards that just you look back now and you're going, dang, I wish I still had that card. Anyway, that's what we're going to do. We're going to get to the cards now. We're going to jump right into it. And again, thanks for coming. For our background today, we've got my copy of Willie Mays' biography. It's a very good book. I definitely recommend it. And 2 Willie autographed baseballs. And ironically, these were both autographed on the same day with the same pen. The ball on the left is an official Major League Baseball. The ball on the right was a minor league baseball. Both were signed with the same blue Sharpie. One was kept in my father's house. One was mine. Neither one of them were in any kind of direct sunlight, yet you do have some fading on the left and a little bit of bleed from, which is typical of the Sharpie on the right. But at the same time, there are 2 Willie baseballs to join us. And let's get to the cards as promised. The first 2 cards that I have for us are from his MVP years from the 1975 MVP series. This one is a graded near mint 8. It's part of my 75 collection. It's the 65 MVPs were Zoilo Versalles of the Twins and Willie. Willie had a monster year in 65. He had 52 home runs, 112 RBI, 118 runs scored, and he led the league in OBP, slugging percentage, OPS, and OPS plus. 65 is one of my favorite Willie cards, and it's one that I no longer have, and it's definitely on my list to bring back into the collection at some point. So next we have his 54 MVP along with Yogi Berra, again from the 75 set. This one is also a near mint 8, and 54 was a big year for Willie. The biggest thing to me, and I can talk about his stats a little bit later, but the biggest thing is Willie only played about 30 games in 1952. He missed all of 1953 and came back in 1954 and had an MVP season right out of the gate after almost 2 full years of military duty. Just to me, that's something to be said, that from that kind of idle time, you can walk right back in and jump into being the best player in the league. So we'll now get to some of his regular issue cards from his playing days. His final regular issue card was 1973 when he was with the Mets. Still kind of weird seeing him in a Mets uniform for me, but this is a near mint 7 card I picked up a while ago. Willie was a part-time player in 73. It was his chance to go back to New York where he started before the Giants had moved to San Francisco. And Willie did a really great job. I mean, they made the World Series. Again, he was only a part-time player. He only had 7 at-bats and 2 hits in the World Series. But it was a chance for him to go home and one final chance at a World Series, which was great for him. Next, we drop down to 1969. And this card I picked up several years ago. I'm not sure exactly where I got it. This is a 3.5 Got a little bit, I don't know if you can see it or not, my thumb's probably in the way. A little bit of wrinkle or creasing right above the bottom left corner between that and the G and the Giants. And I think that's what's responsible for the grade. Otherwise, it looks like it's a pretty nice looking card. 69 was kind of when Willie was starting to wind down his career. He only played in 117 games, batted .283 with 13 homers and 58 RBIs. He did bounce back with better years in 70 and 71. I believe 72. 72 was solid as well. But none of those years were your typical MVP type, typical Willie Mays seasons. Again, things were starting to wind down at that point. Now we've got a 1968. This one I picked up at a local card show. It's a PSA 2. We do have some creasing. I don't know if you can see down there, right in the Giants, right below the Giants in the green circle. I knew it wasn't going to be a high grade, but I picked it up along with a couple other cards at a local trade show, and got it graded. And so 68 was a better year for Willie. It was the last year that he won a Gold Glove. He won 12 Gold Gloves in his career, and 68 was the final one. He played in 148 games and had 23 homers and 79 RBIs and a 156 OPS plus. So while it wasn't the typical superstar year for Willie, it was still a very, very, very good year. Next up, we'll slide down to 1964. This one is a PSA 4. Nice looking card. 64 was a pretty good year for Willie. And when I say pretty good, I mean by his standards. It was, an awesome year for anybody else. Willie had 47 home runs, 111 RBI. He led the league again in OBP, OPS, OPS plus. His OPS plus was 172. We'll just show the back on this one as well. I picked this up, and while 64 isn't my favorite year, I like the card, and I thought it would be a nice little add to my collection. So, all right, now we've got 63 and one of my favorite multiplayer cards. This is of Willie and Stan Musial. It looks like they're standing next to a batting cage or the netting off to the side. This was Stan Musial's last year, 1963. Again, he wasn't a full-time player the whole year there. Stan won 7 batting titles himself and is definitely on the list of all-time greats. And so to pair him with Willie there, it just makes that a special card for me. Card's centered well. I picked it up. It's a PSA 5. I don't know if you can. There we go. Got a little bit better. But it's a really, really nice looking card. It's a pride of NL. And I am happy to have that in my collection. Now we're going to move on to 2 cards in 1962. The first is Willie's All-Star card. Again, we got another PSA 5. This one's a really nice looking card. It's off-center top to bottom a little bit. But I'm not sure what it is about 62, but I really don't notice centering issues on 62s as much as I do some other years. Aside from that, this is a really sharp card, great color, surface is good. And I just actually picked this up last week. Got a nice back there, a nice clean back. Just one of my favorite years for the star players. They had some really nice looking cards. And in 62, and as we get into the manager's dream here, Willie scored 130 runs, had 49 homers and 141 RBI. He led the league with 382 total bases and had 18 stolen bases. So again, it just goes to show you the all-around player that Willie was. This is one of my other favorite multiplayer cards. We got the manager's dream card, which is kind of, I guess, one might consider it an iconic card in the 60s. And this one is a PSA 4, but it's really, really nice. It's centered very well. The corners are pretty good. I think this one probably got slightly on the short end of the stick on the grading side of it, but at the same time, It's a beautiful card, and I like it. I will note that, in case you see it, that what looks like a mark there on the right side, top upper right side, that's actually ink from the printer. And when you look back, it's the same color as the other ink, and that's just a little bit of stray ink that splattered there. So, but we got Willie and Mickey, two of the best center fielders to ever play the game. Both had played in New York for many years before the Giants moved, and just a great card, and again, one I really, really like. Now we're going to drop down to 1960 and go back to his All-Star card. This one is also a 4. 1960. This is another one that I picked up, I believe, at a card show. Was just a nice, another nice year for Willie. Got the nice cartoon on the back, and I'll focus on that here before we pull up the other 1960 card. Got that one. And then his regular issue card, I bought this at the same time as I bought the 1968. This one is a PSA 3. Looks really nice, centered pretty darn well. The surface is solid, but again, I don't know how well you can see it, but this bottom left corner, it took a heavy ding, and that ding kind of got into the card a little bit. So that I knew going in that 4 was probably best case scenario, and the 3 didn't surprise me at all on that. But the bottom left corner is where the issue is with this card. But aside from that, I love it. 1960 was an awesome year. It's one of my favorite 60 sets. I like the horizontal layout on it. I know it's not necessarily the most popular, but I love those cards, and again, feel lucky to have and own that card. The last 2 cards we're going to take a look at, I'm going to actually pull this one out of the card saver, are ungraded. This one's a 54 Bowman Willie. I really like this card. It's a low grade card. As you can see right across the middle, right across his wrist, that's from a crease. So we've got some creasing in this card. We've got some heavy corner wear, as you might be able to see as we get in there a little tighter. But the card's centered very well. It presents well despite its flaws. I just haven't had a chance to get that one sent off to be slabbed. I will at some point. I was kind of hoping to do so this month, but PSA limited their special this month to 1956 and up, which is a little bit odd to me, but hey, whatever works best for them. I'll have to hold on to this one a little bit longer. But the 54 Bowman, and again, you can see the back. It's just a really, really nice looking card. Nice clean back. I picked it up, and it definitely will go into a slab at some point. So, and the last card, while we're on 1954, this is kind of 1954 adjacent. I'm going to sneak back up into the modern world, and this is the 2023 Topps Chrome Platinum issue, which just came out here a month or two ago. This obviously is styled on the 1954 design, Topps design. It's a beautiful card. I picked it up. I like that set. I'm not a big modern card guy, but at the same time, I like that set. I don't like the reflection on it, but I can't control that with the chrome. But I like this set because of the number of retired old-time and vintage players along with the vintage style design. So that's the last Willie card that I have in my collection. And there are many others that I wish I still had. I'll just kind of run through those here fairly quickly. At one point, I had a really nice 1972 in a PSA 9, and I picked that up along with a Johnny Bench, both in 9s. I got a pretty good deal on them, and I ended up selling both of those cards. I made a nice little bit of money on them, but that was pre-COVID, before card prices have jumped up, and man, yeah, it would be nice to have that back. Definitely nice to have that one back. I've also had ungraded 1966 and 65. Again, 65 is one of my favorite Willie cards. But the 65 definitely is on my list to reacquire at some point. Other cards I had PSA 6s in both 1963 and 58. Uh, Again, I kind of got back into collecting and bought up a bunch of cards in 2017, but then started selling some and sold those. And I would like to have those back, but they were very, very nice cards. They presented well, and then somebody is owning a couple of very nice examples of Willie cards there. And the last two that I've had and no longer have, I had an ungraded 1956. Uh, Again, it was centered. It was centered well. Looked nice. It had soft, corners. Was probably a 3.5. Full disclosure, I sent it to PSA to be graded, and that was my first submission ever back in 2017. And I put on the sheet to do a minimum grade of 4. Looking back, I should not have done that. You live and you learn. So it came back ungraded. But I'm comfortable that it was very close to that. So it probably would have landed in the 3.5 range. Again, another one that, man, if you could reel it back in, you'd love to have that card back. And the last one was a 1955. It was a PSA 3. I sent it in that same submission. I'm sorry, excuse me, it was a PSA 3.5. And for whatever crazy reason, I did not put a minimum grade on that one. So I got the 3.5. It was slabbed. And again, it was a nice card for the grade. Neither one of them were creased badly, but they had the worn corners and just the imperfections that are going to create that kind of a level of a grade. Still very nice cards to own. So that's it for the Willie Mays cards in my collection. Some of the cards that I missed out on, or at least I had and now missed them, if you will. I want to thank you for sticking with me. If you like the video, if you want to see more content, please like and subscribe to my channel. Feel free to share this video with anyone that you think may enjoy this content. I like talking about the cards, but also the players and their accomplishments. And I like to share stories that occasionally that I might have that might be a little bit unique. So I'll leave you with that. I wish you have a great rest of your day. And once again, thank you very much. And don't forget the link to my previous video about Willie returning to Rickwood Field is in the description section below.